Green.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always a pleasure to follow the member for Hackney South and Shoreditch. I am, by my calculation, the 93rd speaker in this debate. So clearly the question is to find anything new to say. This is an issue which excites high passions, sometimes destructive and dangerous passions. But if Parliament is to do its job, and I think this institution is being tested as much as possible, then we need to temper those emotions with calm judgment. We face the root of our difficulties is a referendum result that was 52 to 48%. How do you turn a binary referendum result like that into a treaty, into legislation? We need to do two things. The winners need to see that they've won. I say this as someone who campaigned as hard as anyone on what was the losing side. But at the same time, the settlement of that win needs to aim at uniting the country, as the Chancellor said in his opening remarks. And I come to the conclusion that the best way to do this is actually to support the deal that's on offer. There are many positive aspects to it. The free trade area that the Chancellor referred to, it meets the needs of EU citizens here and UK citizens in EU countries. The financial settlement is a considerable improvement on the 70 to 100 billion euros we were originally told that we would owe. I think some of our negotiating has been extremely successful. I appear to think that the negotiating was more successful even than one of the previous Brexit secretaries thinks it was. And I am unfashionably an admirer of Ollie Robbins. But it seems to me one of the key things that we've negotiated is the transition period, which is a very sensible, indeed essential thing to have for the future economic health of this country. But of course, to have that period, we have to have a deal. No deal, no transition period. We are 3.5 months away from a completely new set of rules for which no one is prepared. So I think the logical and unemotional thing to do now is to work out what is the best possible deal on offer, and then of the hierarchy of things also on offer, what is the worst possible one. And I believe, I'm afraid, contrary to my right honourable friend, the previous Brexit Secretary, that no deal is actually by far the worst thing on offer. I recently visited the port of Dover to receive a practical briefing on the implications of any disruption on the Dover-Calais crossing, on the something like 10,000 trucks a day that come through that port. It doesn't require any complaints about the British government's preparations for no deal. It's what would happen on the French side. To take one small but vivid example, a lot of the trade that goes through that port is food. The French will want to check, if we have no deal, that our food is meeting their health standards. If they do that, they will have to stop many trucks, first of all to inspect the food, secondly to check whether there's food in it or not. Within hours, certainly, there will be queues. Within days, the whole of Kent will be gridlocked. It would be a disaster for my constituents and for the country. Nothing to do with any preparations in this country, preparations in France. And I think this is one small example of what was illustrated again in the Chancellor's speech about other industries around the country. But I think this example of the Dover-Calais crossing illustrates that the result of no deal would be chaos, dislocation and huge economic difficulties. I will no doubt be accused of promoting Project Fear. If I am, it's because I am afraid. I am afraid for my constituents and my country if no deal is where we find ourselves in March. And for those who are advocating trade deals, I would point out gently, if trade deals are such a good thing, and I agree they are, why are we starting the process by wanting to pull out of a deal, not just with our largest trading partner, but presumably with all the other trade deals it's negotiated around the world? This vote is about more than the economy. It's about Britain's role in the world. It's more than 60 years since it was observed by an American friend that Britain had lost an empire and not yet found a role. Today, the country has decided to lose its EU membership, but is nowhere near finding a new definition of our national purpose. Global Britain is a good slogan and a great aspiration, but at the moment it's nothing more than that. We need to find a new national purpose, and we need to do so as quickly as possible. So I will be supporting the government and urge the House to do the same.
Angela Eagle.